Michelle from Scrap Secrets, and welcome to Sketch Sunday. This is a new series that I'm going to try to do. I've gone through from Pinterest and from Google searches and found some sketches for cards that I thought I would try out just for something different to give myself a little bit of a challenge. And here's the first one that I did. And if you can't read that writing, I'm not sure how clear it's coming up on screen. It says sentiment, sentiment, sentiment. So that's the sketch that I used for the card today, and I've already made one in an envelope, so I wanted to show you what it looks like, and then I'm going to put it together. All of the dimensions for everything and the official stamp set names and things like that will be available on my blog. The link to the blog is listed in the more information below in case you're not a subscriber, and you can go over there and get all of the details. So this is what the card looks like. And then the interior is blank, and then I just stamped my business stamp on the back of it. But I did something that I haven't done in a while, and I decorated the envelope a little bit. So there's this, and then on the flap, I did hug enclosed with some hearts to match the front of the card. So let's get started. Like I said, all the dimensions will be on my blog, so go over there and check it out, everything out. I'm using a pre-made card base just because it's a little bit easier. It was one less step for me to do, and I have a bunch of them sitting in bins, and I wanted to try to start using them. So here's the card base, and then I cut down 3 different pieces of paper. This is a blue shiny cardstock. This paper always reminds me of the post office. I had a pen pal in Germany when I was younger, and all of her envelopes used to have these colors around the outside of it, and so it reminds me of kind of like airmail. And then this is, I think this is like a vanilla. It came in one of those 50, or an ivory color. This came in one of those 50 packs of value pack papers from Michael's. So there's the 3 elements for the front of the card. I also took 3 circles that I got from using the Spellbinders Nestabilities 7-set circle die. I used the 3rd smallest one from here. I also have a scalloped one in here just because I found it on my desk. But it's the 3rd smallest one, this size circle. Use that and cut out 3 of the circles, and then used this Paper Studio embossing folder and put all 3 circles in at the same time and ran it through my Cuttlebug. So I got these 3 embossed circles. So the first thing that I'm going to do is actually take a stamp from this stamp set, and this is the Simon Says Stamp exclusive Happy Everyday set. This is what it looks like, and I'm using this one. This card is One Big Hug. However, if you look at the sketch, it showed that the sentiment was in 3 different lines. And because of the placement of the circles on here, I'm not going to be able to stamp the sentiment straight across. And since the sentiment is so tiny, it doesn't warrant being cut apart. It actually, I tried to do it because I thought that's what I was going to do to stamp the whole thing, and it turns out that you can't really because there's not much of a space in between the stamp, those stamped words. So I had to do the washi tape technique. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these other pieces aside. I'm going to put this piece down, and I've already marked off the spaces where the blue layer is going to go. And then just want to put the circles down for placement just to kind of see where I can stamp. So what I'm going to do is take washi tape and mask off everything after card, so that when I ink it up, only the first 2 words, this card, is going to have ink on it, and so when I stamp it, those are the only 2 words that are going to stamp. So I'm going to take some Hero Arts Shadow Ink Mid-Tone Pool ink and ink it up. And the first time that I stamped this, I left the circle on, And what I realized is that that's not good because it adds an extra layer and the whole word card didn't stamp correctly. So, just going to kind of get an idea of where the circle is going to go. Take the washi tape off. A little bit got on the eye. Let me just wipe it off right here. Okay. So, I'm going to stamp this. Try to go as straight as I possibly can. Stamp it straight down. So, and since this is shadow ink, it will dry back a little bit. It'll actually, when you first stamp it, it looks a little bit splotchy. But as it starts to dry, it'll be a little bit more solid. Now I'm going to mask off the words "this card" and "big hug." So the words "is one" are going to be the only things that are going to get stamped on this one. And it doesn't matter if the washi tape gets ink on it, because when you peel it off, the only thing that should have ink are the words that you wanted. Okay, and then I'm going to center it under those. And I stamped it a little bit crooked, but that's okay. You can tell it's handmade. There's one, and then I'm going to mask off everything but "big hug." Make sure that okay. Take the washi tape off and then stamp the "big hug" underneath. And I got a little bit of blue ink on the bottom of the card, which is fine because I'm going to put hearts a little bit later after we assemble the card, and I can mask those with some hearts. So, now my next thing to do is to assemble the other pieces of this card. So what I'm going to do is put some Zig 2-way glue pen ink down on this little strip of blue. And it's actually a little strip that was left after I cut this piece off. When I initially cut it, I cut it 1/4 of an inch too big because the pre-made cards that I bought were 4 by 5.5 inches. And normally when I make cards, they're 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. So I actually cut this to the same size as the front of the card, but I wanted it to be have a little white border around it, so I actually had to go back and cut 1/4 of an inch off, and it actually turned out perfectly because I wanted this. I needed a little strip, and this matches perfectly. So there's that strip is glued down, and now it's time to glue all of the red circles into place. Now you can't read what this embossing folder says, but I just wanted to make sure the letters are going the correct way. Okay. And I just want a placement of these just to make sure that the same amount of blue strip is hanging off of the top as is off the bottom. And use the 2-way glue pen again to adhere these circles down. Oops. Make sure you glue the correct side of the circle. That wouldn't be unlike me if I glued the wrong side of the circle down. Okay. So there you go. Now you have the very top layer of the card assembled. But now what I want to do is I want to cut this extra strip off. But then I also took, to hide some of the blue that I got on the last piece, I actually took a heart from that same stamp set, this one, the Happy Every Day, this little heart that's right here, and inked it up with blue, that same blue shadow ink, and then just kind of put the heart, stamp the heart wherever I kind of needed to cover things up. I actually did this after I put it on the piece last time because I didn't realize that I had so much blue ink that I needed to cover up. So just stamp it in a random pattern, making some of them go off the page, trying to make it look like it's a piece of pattern paper rather than something that you did yourself. And you can put it all over. I just kind of wanted to put it on the same side as where the sentiment was. Just wanted to do a couple of them. And each time you do this, obviously it will be a little bit different. So your cards won't look the exact same, but that's the good thing about having handmade. It doesn't, and nothing has to look the exact same. It's how it can tell the difference between handmade and mass-produced cards. So I have this together. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is glue the rest of my layers together. I'll wait for this to dry. It does take a couple seconds since it dries back to be less splotchy. So I'll put the other layers together. There is a 1/4 of an inch difference. So half an inch difference, a 1/4 of an inch difference between these. So there's a little bit of a border around it. And then glue this piece down. With the ATG tape, sometimes it gets stuck. Okay, I'm going to center this in the middle of the piece. And there you go. We have the front of the card base all together. And then just need to find, I see my envelope. Here is my card base, and I always have to check to make sure it's opening the right way. I've done all this hard work and, to do the front piece of a card, and there have been plenty of times where I've glued it on the wrong way. So I had to do some card surgery, so I always try to make sure that the card front is actually on the front of the card and it opens the correct way. So, there you go. And there, the card base is all done. So now that that's done, I wanted to show you how to make the matching envelope to go with it. So what I used were the Simon Says Stamp exclusive stamp sets, the envelope sentiments 4 by 5 3/4. And this is what it looks like. I also used a piece from another Simon Says Stamp one, and I can't remember what one it is, but it has this piece to it. It was one that I got around Christmas time, so I don't remember what stamp set it came from. But all the other pieces came with this. So from that stamp set, I'm using these lines right here and Please Deliver To. I'm going to ink those up in the Hero Arts Shadow Ink Pool Mid-Tone ink. Okay. I always seem to get ink where it doesn't belong when I ink things up. Just clean off the stamp press real quick before I do that. And then I'm going to stamp on the front of the envelope. This is a Fisker's stamp press. It's fantastic for large stamps because you can really press down on it, and it actually works really well for positioning things over top of stamped items that are already stamped because the feet have the flexibility to move around. So if you guys don't have this, this is probably one of my favorite tools that I recommend for somebody who stamps a lot. And then the next thing that I want to do is take this stamp and ink it up with Hero Arts Shadow Ink Raspberry Jam. It's another mid-tone ink. I really like these inks. They give a really nice stamp image. I have probably about 15 colors of it, so I use these a lot when I stamp. So I'm just putting this stamp image over the image that I already have down here and pressing it down. You don't have to press really, really hard, but I do like to go over the area just to make sure that everything got pressure. With these, because there's no feet on them, I like to do that. There you go. It actually came out really good. It came out better than the first one. So here's the front of the envelope. And then what I'm going to do is take the other stamp, this one that says Hug Enclosed. And I'm going to use that same raspberry jam ink, ink it up, and stamp the front of the envelope, or the little flap of the envelope. And then I'm going to take that pool ink again with the heart that I used for hiding some of those blue splotches. And I'm just going to put a couple of hearts. Stamp a couple of hearts. Alright, so there is my envelope, Hug Enclosed, with some little hearts. Actually, I might put a heart up here because I got a little bit of the raspberry jam where I didn't want it. Just put, nope, so I just covered it up with a heart. So that's one thing. If you ever get ink where you don't want it, there's always something that you can do to cover it up. Actually, one of the YouTube channels that I follow, they actually said you could take a craft knife and try to pick it out and then take an eraser and erase over top of it. I tried it and it didn't really work for me, so I don't know if that works for you, but usually what I do when I get ink splotches where I don't want them, I use something like a heart or a little other little embellishment and try to cover it up, because you don't want to do all that time, spend all that time and do all that work and then feel like you have to trash something. I feel like there's always a way to fix something. So here is the envelope, and here is the card that we made from the sketch. And let me show you one more time the sketch so you can see it side by side. You can see, actually let me do this. There's the sketch. Oops. And there's the card that we made. So, I want to thank you guys so much for watching the first ever Sunday sketch video. Hopefully there will be many more to come in this series. If you like the series, give it a thumbs up, leave comments, subscribe, let me know. I would love if you guys have any ideas for sketches that you would like to see me turn into a card. Feel free to send them to me or put a link to the page that you want me to look at, and I will try to come up with something cool. So thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to leave comments and questions below, and subscribe. Let me know what you think of this series. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.